All right.
We're talking
Hello,
about
everyone.
English.
Welcome to Quibbles Over Coffee. This is a show where we generally talk about stuff that's important, but
But not
not
today.
today.
Not today.
Not
Yeah,
today.
not
Oh,
today.
I'd argue it is important, though.
You
I
think?
feel like the English language is very important.
Defend your position.
Um, Without the English language, we wouldn't be able to communicate like we are right now. We'd be speaking a different language.
Yeah, but we would still be speaking.
Yeah,
We just wouldn't be
that's
speaking
true.
English. Here's my question.
But
Okay.
Okay, what's your question?
There are a lot of linguists who are
Mhm.
like, you can't think something if you can't express it in your native language. Do you think that's valid?
Hmm.
So like the argument would be
I don't
like,
know.
the argument would be like, if we didn't have the word rape, we wouldn't be able to like fully be able to explain why that's bad.
No, but I
The
feel
word.
like you could still explain why it's bad without the word.
Yeah, but my question is like, there's clearly a utility
Yeah.
to like the clang of like a racism, or like the
Sure.
clang of like a sexism, or the clang, and certain words have that clang to a greater degree than other words do.
Yeah.
So like I would argue that like, anti-Semitism just doesn't have the clang. Islamophobia just doesn't have the clang that
Yeah,
I
no,
want.
I would agree with that.
I want more of a clang.
Yeah.
Like when I say, here's why Hitler was bad, I can say Nazi. Nazi has a clang.
Sure.
But anti-Semitism just doesn't have the clang. Homophobia
no, that's true.
just doesn't have the clang.
Yeah.
I need a clang to it,
I think it's about the letters.
Ooh,
right?
That's interesting.
Because I feel like Nazi, like it has a lot of different letters put together that you wouldn't really put together usually.
That's interesting.
And then I feel like the same with racism. Like you got the race is general, but like the ism, I feel like those two things together, it's like racism. It's like,
yeah,
ooh, that's interesting.
That's quite interesting.
And I feel like there's some things with like hard P's. I feel like P words like porn is like it's
orn.
Yeah,
you gotta get the orn. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like, yeah.
Some femdom orn. Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I feel like my position is English is dumb.
For sure. I have dyslexia.
English as a language is so dumb.
It is a very poorly put together language. That's definitely true.
There's so much like
there's so many just like stupid spellings of so many words.
And
like can we talk about there for a second?
I'd love to talk about there for a second.
Okay. How about one there?
Yeah.
Just one. We don't need
just one.
We don't need
three.
All three separate theirs.
We don't need three.
Like contractions writ large, silly.
Right.
Silly. Yeah. People are like, you can't say ain't because ain't doesn't make any sense. I'm like, okay, listen, you little fucker. How about won't? How about won't? Won't make sense in your mind? Really? Won't make sense? Fuck you.
Yeah. They're
Fuck
dumb.
You. It doesn't make any sense.
Because it's just like, why do we like language? I feel like language is made to be able to communicate with each other. And I think we should be able to communicate in like an easy way. Like we shouldn't have to be able to explain what we just said to someone for them to understand what we just said. And it's like, because there are so many words that are spelled the same or sound the same that mean two completely different things, or like spelled the same and sound the same that mean similar things, that you have to then differentiate with either context clues or asking the person what they meant, like which use of the word you're like meaning to use. And it's like, I don't like it. like what is going on?
For sure.
And it's just like,
for sure. Yeah, it's just nonsense.
No, it is.
It's all just nonsense. But I also think that we should sort of like zoom out.
Okay, let's zoom out.
What is language? We've been talking in previous episodes. The reason that we wanted to talk about this today is because in a previous episode I went kaploof
Right.
Or kaplaupi or something like that. As a in the context, it was very clear that what I was saying is that I was frustrated because RuPaul has an outsized influence over our foreign policy because RuPaul owns 60,000 acres and is an oil magnate, and I was worried about his influence over our foreign policy because he was going to make our oil prices go kabloofy by getting into a bunch of wars overseas. And so
Right.
in context, kabloofy made perfect sense.
Right. It did.
But everyone's like, oh, Jonah, kabloofy's not a word. You
Right.
can't use kabloofy in an essay. To which I respond, why? Why can't I use kabloofy in an essay? Right? This makes no sense. This makes no sense.
All right.
It's
So
a word.
on a broader scale, language is kind of like, it's interesting because like so many different cultures have used language in so many different ways, and it's come to mean so many different things, and there's so many different ways of like using syllables, and like even like written language is so different. Like it's dramatically different. It's so interesting to see. So it's like, I think that it's definitely essential, and I think it's important. And I think it's generally the way that people communicate with each other now. Like that's what it is.
Well, so okay. There's two things.
Okay.
One, I'm not sure that it's actually the primary way that we communicate. Because I could say, Houston, you're a beautiful man. Or I could say, Houston, you're a beautiful man. And those mean two very different things. I could say like shut up, fat ass, as like a joking sort of like endearing whatever the fuck. Or I could be like, shut up, you fat ass, which means a very different thing. You know what I'm saying?
Like, no, that's true.
So the words themselves are sort of tertiary to the meaning behind the words. You see what I'm saying?
It's
like
about
the words,
like how you say it.
It's about how you say the words. It's about like exactly. The intonation, the sort of the eye contact or lack thereof. The candor. Yeah. This is why like texting sucks.
Yeah.
This is why no one understands what's going on Twitter ever, and everyone's just always angry. Because no one understands anyone else.
Yeah, because you can't like see what them like. Exactly. You can't get the intonation. You can't get what they're saying and how they're saying it.
Right. And all of this beef is created artificially because no one understands that the other person was being sarcastic.
Right. Yeah, that's an issue too.
Extraordinary frustration.
I feel like it's less of an issue, but it needs a different like culture. I think for like
there's a whole culture
language of texting and like how texting language is different from written language and how written language is different from spoken language, and it's like it's because even like with the written language and spoken language, like you say, you can't write kabloofy in like a thing.
Like, I did. Writing, like, in the title of that episode, I did. But yeah.
Right, but I'm saying like if you're
one couldn't, Jonah can, like, but one can't. Yeah.
If you're doing something that's not your own work, right, you couldn't write kabloofy. But if you were like talking to someone, like I feel like if you were talking to your boss or something, you could definitely say kabloofy.
And they would understand what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
To clarify, I would never work for any boss who refused to pretended they didn't understand what I was saying when I said kabloofy with respect to the oil value and an international scene. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. If you're gonna be like that kind of a boss who's like, I'm sorry, Jonah, what does kabloofy mean? Like, fuck you.
Can you explain
you
kabloofy?
Little shit. You don't deserve my presence, okay? I don't care how much you're paying me. I to clarify, I do care how much you're paying me. But like no. Sure. No, fuck you. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay.
Right, and so like, go on.
No, go for it. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't have anything. I was just gonna.
Oh, very well. Okay, so here's my point. Here's my point. Language is inherently decentralized. Like by definition, when we're talking about the English language, we're talking about what I speak, the way that I speak. We're talking about the way that you speak. We're talking about the way that the audience that is listening to this, the way that they speak, and the way that they hear. We're talking about lots of different people, literally billions of people across the globe who are transferring their knowledge from point A to point B through the use of a bunch of symbols and a bunch of linguistic sort of decisions that are very diverse. right?
Yeah.
The way that I could say bathroom and a British person could say loo. And that's like a pretty small difference, right? A flat versus an apartment. These are pretty small differences, but they're much more substantial differences. Certainly on pronunciation, there's much more, if we're talking about like Nigerian English is close to a different language than the English that is spoken in Ireland, right? Even though they're both English. And so there's like a real question of like, how does that manifest? And by definition, when we talk about what is an English word, we're talking about what are words that are or are not spoken and comprehended by English speakers. And so everything is decentralized. All of this is decentralized. This is why I fucking hate dictionaries. I hate dictionaries. They do not deserve to exist. They disgust me. They absolutely disgust me. Okay? Because when we think about like what is a dictionary, essentially what it is a totalitarian action. What it is I am going to decide that because I'm a big brain, because I'm this guy with access to a printing press, because I'm this guy who, in the case of like the Oxford Dictionary, literally had the backing of the king, because I am a fucking totalitarian piece of garbage, I and only I get to decide what is and is not a word. You can go fuck yourself, Oxford Dictionary. How dare you? Who the fuck do you think you are to tell me what is and is not my fucking language? You suck. You suck. I hate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous.
Worst. They're the worst.
Yeah. How can you decide like what is and isn't a word? Just because like
you can't.
It's not in a dictionary.
You can decide what you are going to admit that you know, but there's no one who worked. Okay, for decades, ain't wasn't in the dictionary. Ain't in the dictionary. Why? Why ain't in the dictionary?
It's not like I don't know.
Is this not a word? Did you know what ain't meant? Yes. Did you know how to spell ain't?
Yes.
Did you know precisely like what is a contraction for?
Yeah.
Yes. So then how the fuck isn't it a fucking word, you little shit? What you're telling me is that the dictionary is not actually about what is and isn't a word. Rather, it is about what is and is not a word that you will accept in your classist fucking hierarchy.
Right.
I hate you.
It's
you
about
are the
like
worst.
If you have a dictionary or if you have like proper education, then you'll be able to understand the king or the queen's English or whatever. But like if you don't
understand the queen when she says wasn't.
Right.
Or isn't.
Yeah.
I understand her. She just sounds silly because everyone else says ain't. Like it's the equivalent of me going around saying like I am not all the time instead of saying I'm not. And being like really a stickler about I am not all the time. I am named Jonah Dubin, right? Like rather than being like I'm Jonah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like it's interesting because I feel
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it's
You're the worst.
It is the worst.
They're
and
the
like
worst.
I think my issue with language is just like how it's so hard to communicate. Sorry, with English particularly, it's so hard to communicate what you mean with just words. And even you're saying like even with the right candor and inflections and like pronunciations or whatever, like it's so easy to be misunderstood and misinterpret things.
Right.
And it's like, what's the point of me talking to you if you don't understand what I'm saying?
Right. Right, of course. And then there's like, okay, here's another part. When we talk so much about what we're saying, we're not actually literally saying. So like, here's an example. I fucking hate it when I used to have this and I used to just sneer every time a teacher did this. Throughout high school, throughout middle school, they would say, I get up and I raise my hand and I'm like, can I go to the bathroom? Can I use the bathroom? And then they say, I don't know. Can you? Which, okay, let's unpack this. What they want me to say is, may I use the bathroom?
Right.
As if I am asking the question, may I use the bathroom? But that's not what I'm asking.
No.
What I'm asking is, may I stand up, leave your classroom in the middle of your coursework?
Yeah.
Right? go to the bathroom, specifically the men's bathroom down the hall,
Right.
get a drink of water, come back, and sit back down in your class while attempting to interrupt the class as little as possible.
Yeah.
That's what I'm actually asking.
Yeah.
I'm not asking, may I go use a fucking bathroom at my house? That's not what I'm asking. Right? I'm not asking, can I go to the mall and use the mall bathroom? I'm using that bathroom.
Yeah.
And all of that is contextually comprehended based on the statement, may I go to the bathroom? But somehow you're pretending that that's not contextually comprehended when I say, can I go to the bathroom? You can go fuck yourself, Miss Landau. Fuck you. How dare you? You're a fucking math teacher, okay? You're the worst. I hate you. To clarify, I don't hate Miss Landau. Miss Landau is lovely. But the point is, that's bullshit. And I hate that you say it because it's so obviously bullshit.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
It's like I get it. It's like a funny, like, haha, like, can you use the bathroom? Like, I don't know if you can use the bathroom. Like, you, like,
I don't know. Can you? So stupid. And it's just such an obvious power dynamic and such an obvious, like, it's just so gross. Everything about really it is gross. It's just gross. It makes me feel wildly uncomfortable.
And then you get like super embarrassed that you're like called out in front of the whole classroom for like saying it wrong or like saying it wrong, but you're not actually saying anything wrong.
Saying anything wrong. It's the worst. So, okay. All of that is a framework for what language is. Here's the question.
Okay.
Should I be able to write LOL in an essay? In an academic essay.
I think you should be able to.
Okay, why?
Because like if the person you're right, if you understand what LOL means and the other person understands what LOL means, and it makes sense in this context for you to be like either, I don't know, ironically laughing about like something that someone said in a quote or something, or like you're like, this is hilarious and like this is like ridiculous and then like it's hilarity, like LOL. I feel like that's fine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to defend their position, the position of the authoritarians for a moment. To clarify, I'm obviously not an authoritarian, but I'm going to take the devil's advocate position because I am fundamentally the devil, at least according to the comment section. The point is, here's my framework. If the value of language is to communicate, communication is both something that is a literal, is it comprehended? But it's also about what are you telling people in the undercurrent of your statement. Right. And part of the undercurrent of what you're saying when you talk in an academic form is an undercurrent of legitimacy. There's an undercurrent of respectability and legitimacy, and that's important to what you're trying to convey. In the same way that when you're writing a piece of law, right? It should be easily comprehended beyond just the thing that you're directly talking about in the moment. It should be easily sort of blah, blah, blah. In the same way that you write a speech and you're trying to make it convincing beyond just literally laying out what your policy prescriptions are. In the same way that like all of these have a meaning, a context beyond literally when Martin Luther King is saying, I have a dream that one day, right? Like he's not literally just saying like, here's my goal. Right. Yeah. He's also saying like in this flowery language, like here's how my goal is interlocking with the broader sort of Christian and Americanized framework of what goodness is. Right. He's putting himself into this context. I would argue that there is a context within academic writing that is benefited through utilizing academic form.
I don't know. Because like I was never one to really conform to academic form. I think my favorite work that I've done was an essay for like our college writing class, which is like the pinnacle of like how you write a perfect college essay. My, I guess, final project was an essay called Downfall of the Dairy Queen. And it's kind of this like funny and like but serious romp through capitalism and how it has kind of thrusted dairy upon its people and how it's kind of like made lactose intolerance a thing and kind of made people like sick all the time. And it's like, it's a serious topic and it was a serious essay, but I was also like making fun of like big capitalism and like big money for like
Interesting.
framing it as like the Dairy Queen, which is like obviously a restaurant chain, but it's also like a Dairy Queen, a literal Dairy Queen. Mm-hmm. And like I feel like there's value in that, and it was obviously taken as like a serious like I don't know, college essay, right?
Right.
And it's like, but it also used the flowery language that maybe pushed that kind of serious aspect of it, but it's still serious and understood what I meant, and people could understand the undercurrents of the thing. And so I feel like if you have, if you, even in an academic context, if you're using language and if you're getting a point across that in general is to that academic goal, I don't see an issue with using common speak or like common language to get a point across. And I think even using common language or using law, for example, he's talking about law, that's a choice that has its own implications as well. Like you could easily say like, and that was, I don't know, that was funny. I don't know if in what context you would laugh at an academic paper, but like, whatever.
Oh, Julie Bindel is fucking hilarious.
Who?
Julie Bindel. Oh, she's a radical feminist a writer. She's very important in that sort of whole ethos, and she's fucking hilarious. There are people who make like comedy. Slavoj Žižek is another example of someone who makes constant like references and jokes and shit, but he is writing in an academic context.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of thing is also valuable.
For sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So, okay, then here's a question. In the context of the world that we're operating in right now, the context of like a podcast, this kind of space, you curse a great deal less than I do on this show. What's the benefit or cost of me cursing on the show?
I think there's a variety of things. It's funny because I work on another podcast, and my parents listen to that, and their only complaint is that the women who host it curse a lot on the show. And they're like, you need to tell them to stop cursing, like it's bad for their business, like they're making and it's like fine, but I can't tell them how to speak in their show, you know?
For sure.
Like I can't monitor your speech because like whatever.
Because I'm the worst, and
right.
I'm very difficult to control.
And I wouldn't even try to do that because I don't think it's my place to do that.
I mean, like it is your show. You can,
right? It's my show. Yeah, I guess.
No, I understand what you're saying.
But like, I can't like be like, I don't know, because I mean, I do also curse, and I do also like would use that language. But so there's the benefit of like getting across the emphasis and the I think cursing a lot comes from either frustration or like I don't know what that means, but like a kind of like
exasperation.
Exasperation, it's frustration, or it's excitement. It's like so it's like I think those words are useful in conveying like what you mean and getting across the kind of severity of the situation. Or it's like fucking Mitch McConnell again. Like I don't think
Mitch fucking McConnell for sure.
Right. Yeah. I don't think like being like Mitch McConnell is the same as saying like fucking Mitch McConnell, you know? Like there's a clear difference there. And I think like the fucking is necessary.
The fucking Mitch McConnell just has a greater intensity.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the main benefit, and just being able to say like what you want and what you mean and like how you would say it. I think authenticity is important in especially like a place where you're literally selling yourself.
That's interesting.
And I think it's harder to sell yourself if you're not authentic.
That's interesting.
But
I don't know. I don't think I'm not authentic in a class when I'm with a professor, and I'm like, this may shock you, I actually talk a lot in my classes, and I actually have a lot of opinions. But I don't feel like I'm not being myself in a class simply because I'm sort of holding my tongue on literal curse words, so long as I'm saying the actual like ideas that I believe.
Right. I don't think it's a binary of you being authentic and not being authentic, but I think it's definitely like a spectrum of authenticity that you're bringing. Like maybe you're bringing your authentic academic self to a classroom, or you're bringing
Interesting.
your authentic, like I don't know, podcaster self to a podcast.
Interesting. But so that's the question. Like okay, so the authenticity, like I'm just not sure what's the authentic me. Is the authentic me the me that I am when I'm with you or with another friend, or is the authentic me the me that I am when I'm with like a professor, or when I'm with my parents, or when I'm, because like obviously I speak to my parents, I speak to, you know, a
Yeah.
professor in different context. And I'm just not sure if it's fair to just assume that the one that I am with friends is less fake. Because like it's also true that like obviously we're playing ourselves up. We're playing ourselves up as a character when we're talking on a podcast in an obvious way, right? Like, you know, of course, I am, you know, I'm more quiet, right? when I'm not on a podcast. I don't necessarily like straight up speak. Okay, Houston doesn't believe that I'm more quiet.
That's not true.
Okay, fine. Fuck you.
That's not true at all.
There are more.
No, but there are people who definitely are more fake with their friends to either appear a certain way or to do it. And I think it just depends on like the person. I think it depends on, I don't think there is like, you are your authentic self when you're with friends, or your authentic self when you're by yourself. Maybe you're not. But I think in some situations you are more authentically yourself, and some you are less. And I think it's up to you to decide in what capacity you want to be. Like, I don't know, maybe you one day decide that you want to be, I don't know, podcast Jonah in the classroom.
Yeah, that would not go over well.
It would not go over well.
Yeah.
But like, which is interesting, because I don't know, I feel like podcast Jonah in a class at like Purchase, which is a school that I go to, would go over very well.
You think?
I think so.
The problem with podcast Jonah is podcast Jonah talks like a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Well, podcast Jonah has to talk a lot.
That's true.
I don't talk at all.
Yeah, but I guess that's true. But like I don't think that you can function like I know people who talk as much in classes as I talk on this show. And I fucking hate them. They're the worst. I was like that when I was in 9th grade. And then I got into like sufficient numbers of fights with my professors that I learned my place. You know, they gave me a bunch of D's that on like the merits of what I was saying, I didn't deserve, but on the merits of like how I was saying and how frequently I was saying it, I definitely deserved the D. I don't think I literally got multiple D's freshman. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. But the point is that like, you know, they punished me. They punished me for saying, and these children who are like fucking juniors and seniors at Carnegie Mellon don't know when to shut their fucking face. And I'm like, it's time for you to shut your face now, right now. And they just don't. And they're the worst. So I do think that like, if podcast Jonah just operated in the same way in a class as I do here, that would be bad.
Sure. Yeah. But I think, so getting back to cursing, which is, I think was the original thing.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that was the benefit. The I guess negative aspect of it is a monetized standpoint, where I feel like
that's interesting.
People like the business world is less okay with people cursing, and is less okay with like, oh, the children, and is less okay with like types of language that you maybe can't use in school. Like we were talking about how the other podcast is about politics, but it's about educating people about, I mean, like originally their goal is to educate adults, because I feel like adults don't really get educated about politics.
For sure.
And so it's kind of from an adult perspective. But my parents were like, oh, well, this could be good material for high school students, but like they're cursing, and it's not like, I don't think that would go over as well in a classroom.
That can't work
and
in
it's
a
like,
classroom. Yeah.
Sure. But like,
obviously the goal of this podcast is to be in a classroom, of course. Right?
Yeah.
Our goal is to teach a bunch of middle schoolers, you know, how sexual degeneracy is supposed to operate.
Sure.
Right? That's our goal. But like,
yeah, and I think it's whatever you want your show to be. So like, if their goal is to educate adults, like cursing is fine. Like,
interesting.
If our goal is to talk about like educate, I don't know, people our age about
Yeah, I feel like
we need to be interested
when I
in.
think about our audience, I think about an audience of being like our age, maybe like older high schoolers, younger
Right.
college kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that like language, like whatever language we use is fine for them because like
For sure.
they've heard it and it's like not a big deal.
Yeah, and it's also like worth pointing out that like at least my takes, your takes are less cancerous than mine. But some
Sure.
of my takes, like my actual unironic beliefs, are like sufficiently bad, or I shouldn't say bad, but outside of the realm of like normalcy.
Sure.
That I don't think that there are that many like I don't think there are that many people who are like, oh, I would definitely, advertise on someone who is arguing explicitly what's wrong with sexual degeneracy and arguing explicitly about like all of this stuff. Like I've said multiple times on this podcast that my goal is to maximally exploit the poor, right? Like I've literally said that shit word for word multiple times, right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't think there are that many people who are like, I would advertise on someone who wants to maximally exploit the poor, but if they say fuck, nah, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe when we become rich and famous, in order to get even more rich, specifically rich, not more famous, but specifically more rich, maybe it'll be time for me to consider stopping my cursing. But I doubt it. But it's possible. But it's possible. Yeah.
I don't think that's the wave though.
You don't think that's the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. No Bullshit did that. There's this YouTuber called No Bullshit. He's a terrible alt-right piece of garbage. And he now goes by No BS because he changed the name of his channel to No BS. And
That's
he's like,
funny.
welcome to No BS. And it's awful and it's terrible and it's just not the same.
Really funny.
But I assume makes more money because he calls it no BS, not No Bullshit, even though he's literally still calling for like a white ethno steak or some stupid bullshit. I should clarify. I don't know if he's literally calling for that. I don't follow these like alt-right and almost alt-right people all that closely. But yeah, he's bad.
It feels like you do though.
Do I?
It feels like
You've convinced me.
Talk about them a lot.
Yeah, you're right. That is true. You're right. I don't know. I do way too much YouTubing, way too much Twitching, way too much of all of that stuff. It's not good. Yeah, it's not good.
All right. So I have one more language thing that bothers me. Not that bothers me. I think we should adopt Spanish's way of language, and not like we should all. I feel like we should all learn Spanish. You should all learn Spanish. We should all learn other languages because, like, if you learn other languages, then you understand how stupid English is, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely
yeah. Like it's just like you have in Spanish, you have different concrete tenses for everything, and different words mean different things based on like how you say it. Not like different like words mean different things based on how you say them. But like it's the same word, right?
They're very gendered in Spanish though.
Yeah.
I feel like
which is bad for a new age thing.
Yeah.
Where like we're kind of like
I feel in the ideal society we would be the simplicity of Spanish, right? And not gendered. Yeah,
it's an issue, but I also like that. Like, I think the example that I keep going back to is when I'm talking with my mom is that you don't have to, like, if you're saying something like, I like this teddy bear, it's comfortable. That was a bad example. But if you're using, saying a sentence, right, and you have multiple nouns in the first sentence, it's difficult to, in the second sentence, you have to be like, you have to then refer to that noun again and be like, okay, that's the noun. But in Spanish, if you do that, you can more specifically, by like the way the sentence is constructed, not have to say like the thing in the previous sentence.
That's fair.
And so it's like, there's certain like simplicities like that, that it's like, I need that in my current language.
Here's my hot take. I don't think we should have to conjugate any verb. I think it should be I go, you go, he, she, it go, we go, they go. Right? I don't like this idea of like goes. Fuck you. We don't need the goes. Just everyone go. Like,
interesting.
Why? Why do we need that? I just think we should just have, these are the different like, pronouns.
Yeah.
that exist, and then this is the verb,
Yeah.
and just bloop bloop.
Yeah, and I think
Why do we
I feel like
need-
tenses are fine. Like,
No, I don't agree.
you don't like.
I don't like tenses.
Well, how do you know when they go?
I go past. I go future. Why do we need all of that shit?
In the past,
Or maybe if you want to, you can be like, I goed.
I goed.
Yeah.
So
I
past
go
tense
is
goed.
go is like now. I
Mhm.
goed is in the
Is
past.
in the past. And
I go
will
to school. I
will
go
go
to
is the
school
future?
yesterday. Say it again?
Will go is the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
I going. You could do going.
Going.
I going tomorrow.
Wouldn't it still be am going?
No, I don't agree. I don't
No,
like the
because
am.
you'd be conjugating the verb.
You're conjugating. Fuck the go.
Which is also like
conjugation.
English, you're conjugating words and it's like you're adding multiple words to the
Yeah.
verb. And it's like, what?
Fuck
Like,
you.
excuse
Why?
me?
Yeah, nonsense.
No,
Absolute
absolutely
nonsense. I refuse. I
Mm-mm.
refuse.
It's stupid.
Now I'm like super conscious of every time that I curse because we've been talking about it. And so I was just like, was that a necessary fuck you? I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Did it add to the totality of the experience? I'm not sure. You know, I'm very like
Interesting.
conscious of this now, which is not ideal. Maybe it is ideal. Maybe I should be aware of it.
I don't know, because like I cursing is interesting because words in general or whatever meaning you give to them is what they mean, right?
Yeah.
And so like if you don't have any like if you don't care about what the word means,
Mhm.
then like you can say it as much as you want.
Right.
But it's like I think the issue with curse words is that people have different meanings and different like histories with them, and it's like they can be used to kind of like make people feel bad.
Well, okay, so here's the question. What makes a curse word a curse word? Because like okay. There's a list of curse words that we all know.
Sure.
When I think about like the N-word,
Mm-hmm.
the reason that's a curse word is because it's obviously explicitly, when you call someone the N-word, you're not just insulting them, you're insulting them and also black people writ large.
Right.
When you call a woman a bitch, you're not just insulting her, you're insulting women writ large as well as
Sure.
her. If you call a Jew a kike, you're talking, right? Like these are examples of
Yeah.
words that, and obviously, I mean, by just the very fact that I said the N-word and then said bitch and kike does suggest that I consider one of those to be more intense than the others,
Yeah.
right? But like, you know, there is a sense in which like those are attacking a broader group in addition to attacking the individual.
Yeah.
When I say that so-and-so is a fucking idiot,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm insulting anyone other than that individual.
Yeah.
When I call someone an asshole, I don't think I'm insulting anyone other than them.
Yeah.
When I say that's a shit take, I don't think I'm insulting anyone. I'm insulting poop. Oh no, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. If
I
those are real
definitely feel
curse
like
words.
certain ones are worse than others. Like definitely crap, shit, ass, fuck. Those are like
But I feel like fuck has like a really intense passion behind it. I feel like
I understand why.
I don't know why either. Well, okay, so okay. If we're gonna unpack what fuck comes from, it comes
Okay.
from fornicate under the consent of the king. So what that means
Really?
is, yeah,
I didn't know that.
fornicate under the consent of the king. So what it means is, the king,
Huh.
in the case of a classy lady, was allowed to essentially rape that woman before she was considered to be virginally available, still considered to be a virgin after
Right.
the king had raped her,
Yeah.
virginally available to her new husband.
Sure.
And so so fornicating under the consent of the king means the sex after the king has raped her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is kind of cool. But the question is like the fact that you didn't know that,
Yeah.
right, suggests that the word fuck no longer has any like context, has no like actual basis in that.
No, I don't think so anymore.
And so the question is like, well, okay, if that's the case for fuck, which I think it is, that it's not like fuck originally by that logic would probably be a gendered statement,
Yeah.
right? It is a
Like
gendered
you've-
term.
Like you're fucked or like
Like, yeah, you're saying you're fucked as in you are a woman who is now having potentially consensual sex after the probably not consensual sex with the, you see what I'm saying? Like, so it's
like, I can understand why that's a bad thing, and like why that's would be
so I can understand
derogatory
if people are thinking of it as fornication under the consent of the king. I can understand why that's a gendered term, but I just don't think that in the general parlance of modern society that it's considered to be a gendered term. I think that a man can be just as easily fucked as a woman. Right?
Yeah, because it doesn't mean that anymore. But does it?
Well, I mean, people do still say, like, I'm fucking, so and so, and they do mean sex there.
Right. But like, they don't mean like the king has fucked them. And
right.
Now
right.
they're like.
Right. Right. So the question is like, so that's been
interesting. That's so cool.
From its original meaning. It is kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's been clearly divorced from its original meaning.
Yeah.
There are other terms where, like, I think bitch is a good example. It has not been divorced from its original meaning.
No.
I think it still means basically what it meant. It basically does still mean a female dog. It is clearly a gendered attack. It is clearly right. And so, like, where on that spectrum do different words fit? Because like in gay sort of New Yorker society, bitch means a different thing,
right,
than it does in other contexts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, like even my like a gay friend that I have in college like sends me like a bitch as like a greeting, and it's like I at first I was like oh. But then it was just like, he like explained
my sensibilities.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then explained, it was like, oh, it's just like, hey, like what's up? And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, I have female friends who call me bitch all the time.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. But it's something that I'm consciously aware of as being a thing that is gendered.
Yeah. So do you think with time it'll just become like fucked?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know.
Right, like,
I guess it depends on like people use it too.
That's the thing. Like, some of them are transferring into becoming more, I think, about their original meaning. So like gay is an example. People used to say that's so gay. Yeah. And I genuinely don't believe that they were thinking of it as something that meant homosexual.
Yeah. No. It was like either stupid or like dumb or like bad or like
yeah, and this was in my life. Like, this is in our lifetime. Like, this was not that long ago.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But like now, I think if someone says, that's so gay, they do mean homosexual.
Yeah. Or even
broadly
like
speaking,
cool or like
again, yeah. In
like,
the context of like the circles that I operate within, there are other circles where like people still say gay and do mean dumb.
Yeah.
And by the way, dumb is another example. Dumb means something literal. Dumb means that you can't speak.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas when I just said dumb there, I obviously didn't mean someone can't speak.
Yeah.
I meant stupid. Yeah. And like, I think a reasonable case can be made that like, hey, John, you probably shouldn't say dumb in that sense, because it's kind of fucked.
Right.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like
no,
I don't know if that's really a valid criticism when it's clearly in context not utilized in that manner.
Yeah. And I think like it was interesting a few weeks ago, I think Twitch banned the term of like blind playthroughs, and like the indication that something was blind was offensive towards blind people.
That's interesting.
But like I feel like in the terms of like a blind playthrough, it's like I haven't experienced this before. I'm going in blind, because like if you like that's also a saying, like I'm going in blind, or like
sure.
And it's like I don't know. I feel like it's come to mean something else. As I think words can mean two things. Like it can mean a blind isn't like a person literally can't see, but it's also can be blind and like you don't know what's happening, or you don't know what's going on because you don't know.
But I think the question is sort of what's the underlying like context of the word, because there is an underlying context of when a gay man calls another man bitch.
Yeah.
There's a context there.
Yeah.
When someone calls you a cuck rather than just a loser.
Right.
There's a context there.
Yeah.
right? So like, what's the underlying like meaning to the fact that, as you're saying, we say going in blind,
Mhm.
and we also say blind as a meaning physically?
I guess it would just be like you don't know what's happening. Like,
But that says like Toph Beifong knew what the fuck was happening.
right.
She was blind, but she knew what the fuck was happening.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess in that case, in that case, it's kind of bad, and like I guess demeaning to people.
Interesting.
But I think like that, I feel like that's the case to have more words mean different things.
Interesting.
If we have only one word that means you can't see, or you can't know what's going on, like that's what blind means.
Well, so okay, here's a question. I could just say stupid every time I say dumb.
Yeah.
When I'm saying dumb in the context that I mean stupid, why don't I just say stupid?
I don't know. Word preference?
Why do people feel the need to have retarded? Why do people feel the need to have stupid? Why do people feel the need to have dumb? Why do people need to have the word idiot? Why do you have to have the word, all of these different words? Lame, right? All of this has basically the same meaning, but different subcontexts.
Yeah, but they also have, I think they have, well, some of them anyway have different wider contexts as well.
That's
and
interesting.
I think those are useful, right? Like, it's like we were dissing the theirs earlier, but it is useful to have, well, maybe not that case.
Those are different words.
Three different
those
words.
have different meanings than they are different words. They just happen.
But it's like, I think it's
interesting
to have. It's useful to have different words that mean different similar things.
Interesting.
Because I think like in contexts they can be used. Like I think penis, for example. Like I don't think in like a right.
Yeah.
Like we can say penis, and I think penis
dick.
is more of like a.
We can say penis. We can say the puff puff. We can say the experiential the experiential shaft.
Yeah.
The experience. Did you like my experiential?
I don't like that at all.
You don't like this motion?
No.
That's not a fun motion for you?
No.
I'm really enjoying this motion. But now.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think in a penis context, you can say penis as
penis. Yes.
Right. But I think in like a sexual context, you would say cock or dick.
You would say cock and balls. Yes.
Right. And I think those have different
the balls.
They're useful, like they mean the same thing, but they're useful in the different
But that's the
context.
thing, that they don't mean this exact same thing.
Yeah, they do.
No, I don't agree. I think that when I say
penis, cock, and dick mean the same thing.
No, I don't think that dick and I think dick and cock are closer to meaning the same thing than penis is. I think when I say penis, I mean the thing that pisses.
Interesting.
When I say cock, I mean the thing that fucks. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like they are different.
Yeah, but I'm saying like those are the differential things that are kind of refer to the same thing. That's part of your body.
Yeah.
That have different meanings.
My point is those exactly. They have different meanings. And so the question coming back to the beginning of this sort of whole episode is, does that mean that like one of these, right? If I didn't have the word cock, would I be able to say the same things with the same severity with the word penis? I don't know.
I would say no.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I lack a word. So like we lack a word for feudalism, like pro-feudalism, in the same way that we have words for like racism.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want a word that has the same severity for when people steal my natural resources as we have for racism, sexism, homophobia, right? Islam, anti-Semitism, any of that shit.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have the word for this little fucker is stealing my fucking air.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
We should come up with one.
RuPaul is stealing my air.
We should come up with a word.
He is throwing shit into my fucking atmosphere and literally asphyxiating me through the fucking CO2 emissions that he is personally responsible for. He is literally asphyxiating me, that fucking piece of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I guess we're okay with the curses now.
Oh, I like totally forgot about that whole component of this conversation. Yeah, you're right. Wait, which part of that was bad? I said fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
So shit we're okay with because who cares about the poop? You know, like we can
Okay.
insult. I think we're allowed to insult poop.
Yeah.
I think we're allowed to insult fornicating under the consent of the king because it no longer means that.
Yeah.
Therefore, yes to both of them. Fuck RuPaul. I planned that. Wasn't that really cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my thinking. I don't think that I insulted anyone other than RuPaul by calling RuPaul a fucking piece of shit.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but I want a word for the asphyxiation of my fucking atmosphere that RuPaul is personally responsible for.
I guess we'll come up with it.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it right now.
Stay tuned. Right
No, let's do it now. We're doing it now. Let's do it live. Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing it live.
What do we need this word to be like punchy.
I need it to be broad. I need it to be in the same way that we say like the totality of sexism,
Mhm.
right? Which is just like the broad swath of like based on gender stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The totality of racism based on race stuff. I need a totality of natural resource exploitation that is stolen from the from society. All of that. I need a word for all of that.
Natural resource exploitation that's stolen from society.
Yeah. They're stealing it. They're stealing my air. They're stealing my water. They're stealing my land. They're stealing all of that shit. I need a word. I deserve
is that
a
good
word.
Acronym?
What? Land, water?
No, natural resource exploitation. What was the
Nuri!
What was the second part?
Of land, water, air.
No, it's getting too long and complicated.
Lawa.
Noah.
Lawanery. Lawanery? No, the lawanery isn't snappy enough. I need a k sound in it. There needs to be a k or t.
You need a p or a k or a t.
Or a t or k. Interesting. We deserve one.
Yeah.
We deserve one.
We do deserve one. I think that's it. I think that's in. We'll talk about that and we'll come back with something.
Kaploof.
Kaploof.
No, that we can't end it with a f. We have to end with a t. Kaploot. Kaploot.
Kaploot?
Yeah. You're being a fucking kaploot. You're being a person who is taking monopolistic control over the natural resources. Verb. You kaplooting piece of shit.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of like that.
Right? Kaploot. All right. Fuck the kaploots. RuPaul is a kaplooting piece of shit, and I fucking hate that little kaploot. Does that work?
Okay. It's a noun and a verb. I like it.
All right. We're gonna name this podcast
right, I guess it's an
RuPaul is a kaploot or some shit like that.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay.
We'll have a description.
All right. I adore all of you. You should you should subscribe, you should follow us on TikTok. And anything else?
Comment and share.
Comment and share. Bye-bye.